All right, listen up. We're going to talk about Crete today, but we are deliberately ignoring the Crete you think you know.
Right.
If you came here looking for, advice on finding the perfect sunbed near Heraklion or how to navigate the queues at Balas Lagoon, you're in the wrong place.
This is not that deep dive.
Not at all. We are pressing delete on the resort scene. This is exclusively for the ambitious, adventurous learner who is ready to move beyond the typical tourist itinerary. Our focus is laser sharp. The rugged, wild South Coast and its stunning, ancient gorges.
And if that prospect excites you, you must understand the immediate shift in expectation. This is not a relaxing holiday destination.
Not even close.
This environment is intense, it is raw, it is wild, and the moment you step off that bus on the south side, the air just hits you.
Oh, yeah.
It is a distinct, almost medicinal scent. A heavy mix of wild sage, sun-baked dust, and sharp sea salt carried on the wind from the Libyan Sea. This level of terrain demands preparation, which is exactly why we are here to provide the blueprint.
Okay, let's unpack this with a bang. We have a foundational, bold claim to start with, followed by 3 necessary contrarian surprises that will completely reorient your view of this massive island.
Right.
Our core thesis, the premise of this entire discussion, is that the rewards far, far outweigh the logistical headaches.
We stand by this. When you factor in 2 absolutely crucial elements: sustained, low cost, and the favorable shoulder season weather windows, the southern coast of Crete is the single best, most accessible, high-adventure trekking destination currently available in Europe.
That is a massive claim. When we say high adventure, we mean multi-day, sustained physical commitment. You are saying this is better than the Alps for cost, which is undeniable.
Of course.
But also better than the Dolomites for those critical, reliable weather windows in the spring and fall.
Precisely. The Alps are geographically breathtaking, but they're cripplingly expensive to sustain for a full week, and their weather windows are notoriously unstable. The Dolomites have incredible beauty, but catching them in May or October can be, a bit of a gamble.
It really can.
Crete offers reliability, the same stunning verticality, and costs 40% less. That is the winning formula, and we have the logistics and the budget breakdown to substantiate it. But first, we need to shatter a few misconceptions.
Let's hit the shockers. The things the average guidebook either misses entirely or, deliberately ignores.
The first contrarian surprise is about celebrity versus experience. The hike everyone has heard of, the legendary Samaria Gorge, is undeniably majestic in its scale.
It is.
But if your priority is sanity, quiet contemplation, and a feeling of solitude, it is objectively the worst hiking experience on the island.
I have to challenge that, even though I agree with the conclusion. How can a UNESCO-protected 16-kilometer natural wonder be the worst? Is it physically too demanding? Is that it?
No, it's not the physical demands, it's the human traffic. Due entirely to the sheer volume of organized tour groups that descend every morning, especially from Shawania and Heraklion, it turns a sublime natural experience into a crowded conveyor belt.
A conveyor belt. That's a great way to put it.
You spend the first hour or 2 in a queue, waiting for the person 10 feet in front of you to stop taking a selfie. If you don't time it perfectly, you ruin the majesty of the place, and that's a tragedy.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The second surprise involves transportation, something hikers usually consider a means to an end, but here it becomes the central challenge.
Oh, it's a huge liability. Having a rental car is actually a major liability on the South Coast. It traps you.
It traps you how?
Unlike loop trails, these gorges are one-way tickets, descending from the mountains to the sea. Attempting to recover your parked vehicle requires a complex, time-consuming logistical ballet involving ferries, multiple buses, and hours of wasted time that eat into your precious recovery or hiking time. You have bought a cage, not freedom.
And finally, the third surprise is a shock to the physical system that people do not anticipate when they look at pictures of the turquoise sea.
You might assume that hiking near the coast means gentle sea breeze temperatures, but the coast is physically harder than the mountain summits in key parts.
Harder than the mountains.
The geology works against you. The walls of those deep gorges are made of pristine white limestone, which reflects the brutal sun directly onto the trail. This creates sun traps where temperatures, even if the ambient air is 30 degrees Celsius, can spike to a searing 45 degrees Celsius inside the deep cuts.
Wow. 45.
It's an oven.
So our mission today is ambitious. We need to provide you with the essential blueprint for this region. We'll break down what we call the logistical shuffle, how to use the ferries and buses to your advantage and maintain flow.
It is a shuffle.
We'll detail budget ranges from the scrappy backpacker up to the high-end traveler, making sure everyone knows the true cost of convenience. And critically, we must provide the safety blueprint. How to manage that intense radiant heat, how to move safely through rockfall zones, and finally, give you the unvarnished verdict on whether walking 16 kilometers downhill over loose scree is truly worth the earned reward.
I'm here to make sure you understand the mechanism that makes the complexity workable.
And I'm here for the stories, the feeling of the raw stone, and figuring out the reality of those remote mountain communities. Let's dive into the intense, wild reality of Crete's secret south side. Okay, let's establish some necessary context about this extraordinary place. Crete is not just another island. It is, geographically, the biggest Greek island, running over 260 kilometers long.
It's massive.
And it absolutely feels like its own country. It has its own distinct culture, its own microclimate, and incredibly rugged terrain.
What exactly dictates the trekking experience here?
Well, the entire geography is dictated by the massive mountain range known as the White Mountains, or the Lefka Ori, which form a rugged spine right down the western central core of the island.
Lefka Ori.
These mountains rise dramatically. We're talking peaks over 2,400 meters, and the gorges we are focusing on, like Samaria and Eridina, are essentially enormous, breathtaking cracks in the spine.
Just cracks in the earth.
Exactly. They all lead, inevitably and dramatically, down to the shores of the Libyan Sea on the south coast. When you commit to this region, you are committing to verticality. And since we are calling this high adventure, let's talk about timing. Social media is littered with people hiking in midsummer, but if we're serious about long, sustained trekking, when is the true safe window?
July and August are often borderline suicidal for serious trekking due to that intense radiant heat we discussed.
Suicidal. That's a strong word.
It is. The paths are open, but a 6 or 8 hour trek is genuinely risky and, frankly, deeply unpleasant, even if you are fit. The prime shoulder season windows for serious, enjoyable hiking are May, June, September, and October.
The shoulder seasons.
That's when you get bearable midday temperatures, relatively empty trails, and incredibly stable conditions. If you go in May, you get the bonus of wildflowers. If you go in late September, the sea is still bathtub warm.
I think we need a serious expectation setting about the overall vibe. When most people picture Crete, they might think of ancient Minoan palaces, maybe olive groves, and definitely nice flat beaches.
This is a different planet from Santorini or Mykonos. There are no blue domes and no high-end celebrity resorts here. The vibe is utterly rugged. We're talking raw, exposed stone, the constant hypnotic sound of goat bells.
They're everywhere.
They seem to be the primary soundtrack of the island. Enormous griffin vultures circling overhead, and incredibly tough, resilient locals.
Let's delve into those locals, the Sfakian people, who inhabit the mountain villages like Anopolis and Chora Sfakian. You mentioned they are distinct, often wearing black, and have a history of carrying gyves. That sounds intimidating, and we need to balance that description.
That's a crucial point of nuance. The Cretans in the White Mountains, particularly the Sfakians, are a distinct population. Their traditions wearing black, carrying small knives, stem not from aggression, but from a long, storied history of fierce resistance.
Right, resistance.
They were historically ungovernable, resisting Ottoman occupation and later, famously, the German invasion during World War II. The black clothing symbolizes this long history of mourning and defiance. When you encounter them, the initial impression might be sternness, but you will quickly find genuine, deep, old-world hospitality.
It's an earned trust, then.
It's an earned trust, not an immediate one. You have to actively want that physical challenge and the earned cultural reward that comes with it.
That context is essential. And you must commit to the physical challenge. This isn't a casual morning stroll before the hotel buffet.
Absolutely not. These are full-day commitments. Even the easy alternative gorge, Imbros, is a 3-hour hike. Samaria is 16 kilometers of relentless 1,200-meter descent. If you are coming here merely to tick a box or get a quick photo, you will find it too much effort and you risk injury.
What's fascinating here is how immediately the environment enforces isolation once you commit to the south coast.
The isolation is the point. Consider the hike-out points. Agia Rumeli, where Samaria ends, or the impossibly picturesque village of Lutro. Neither has road access.
No roads at all.
You finish your grueling descent covered in dust, and you are literally cut off from the modern road network. You are entirely dependent on the ferry's rigid schedule to move to the next town or back to civilization.
Which, as we said, is paradoxically a massive bonus. No cars means no road traffic jams, no noise pollution, but it means zero flexibility.
Zero.
You have traded personal driving freedom for total reliance on a highly regimented marine transit system.
And that reliance dictates your arrival strategy. We emphatically recommend flying into Chernigov. That's CHQ.
Why Chernigov over Heraklion? I mean, Heraklion is usually cheaper for international flights.
It can be, but if you fly into Heraklion, you are adding a minimum 2.5-hour, often highly stressful drive just to get to the southern start line, places like Omelos or Korosfekion.
That's a lot of wasted time.
It is, especially when you factor in the already complex logistical schedule. Chernigov is geographically positioned perfectly to attack the White Mountains immediately.
So you land in Chernigov, that's the initial culture shock, noise, traffic, tourist crowds around the Venetian harbor, and high prices. But the transformation begins immediately as you start the drive south.
That drive is necessary for the psychological shift. You drive south, over the mountain pass, and the volume drops instantly. There is silence, a stark beauty that can feel desolate. The roads are good quality, but they are winding, serpentine ribbons of asphalt up and over the peaks, often with sheer drops.
So if you get carsick.
Oh, prepare aggressively. Yeah.
I remember driving across the Askefu Plateau. It was stunning. It felt like a massive flat lake bed, what the locals call a polja lake, a bowl of green soup, surrounded by enormous gray, jagged teeth of rock.
This is beautiful.
But you realize immediately how minimal the infrastructure is. There's maybe one coffee shop, a taverna, and a handful of houses.
That leads directly to the cultural reality check we call Greek time. The urgency that governs Northern European or American schedules simply does not exist in the mountains.
Not at all.
I recall stopping in the village of Rizes and asking for a quick espresso because we were trying to make a scheduled bus transfer. It took the barista 25 minutes to deliver it.
25 minutes for an espresso. That's unacceptable by modern standards if you're trying to catch a flight. Did you miss the bus?
No, but the delay wasn't due to laziness. It was because the owner wanted to know exactly where we were from, what we were doing, how the trekking was going, and who we knew in the neighboring villages.
Ah, okay.
It is genuine, overwhelming hospitality, but if you have a tight transfer or a ferry to catch, that 25 minutes can completely derail your day. You have to bake in buffers for this required pace of life.
That dictates the rhythm of the trip. The mountains and the local culture dictate the pace, not your vacation schedule.
And that feeling of ancient remoteness is magnified when you spend your first night deep in the hiking zone. We stayed in a simple place in Annapolis, high up near the start of Samaria Gorge. Stone rooms, meter-thick walls, no need for modern air conditioning.
It's like sleeping in a fortress.
It felt like sleeping in a medieval watchtower. You look down and see the Libyan Sea shimmering thousands of feet below. You feel profoundly remote and small.
The ultimate sensation of having earned your silence. No traffic, no airport noise. Just dead silence, which is only broken, inevitably, by those 4 a.m. roosters, which seem to be coordinated across the island.
They are.
That is the initial reality of the southern coast. Now, let's talk about the necessary finances required to pay for that silence. Transitioning smoothly to the economics of high-adventure travel, we are analyzing a focused 7-day gorge hiking trip. The biggest lesson when calculating the expense is this. You save spectacularly on food and drink.
You really do.
But movement is deceptively expensive, often negating those savings if you aren't careful.
That's the perfect summary. You save on sustenance, but you pay a premium for overcoming the logistical isolation that defines the region. Let's start with the base costs, where you sleep.
Right.
So we've broken down 3 very clear accommodation ranges.
Okay.
First, the backpacker or budget option. You can find hostels in the city of Chechnya for, say, $25-30. But once you move into the isolated South Coast villages, Sugia, Agirumeli, Lutro, you are limited to basic family-run rooms to let.
Right, the little signs everywhere.
Exactly. Expect to pay 40 to 50 euros per night for a very basic twin room. They are clean and simple, but they're Spartan.
And mid-range?
This is the sweet spot. This gets you the nice studios, usually with a small kitchenette and possibly a sea view balcony. In the slightly larger or more popular villages like Lutro or Paleokora, expect 80 euro to 120 euros per night.
You're paying for the view there.
You are.
Got
You're
it.
paying for proximity to the sea and a guaranteed private space.
And high-end, if you really want to splash out.
As we noted in the intro, high luxury barely exists right on the trail. You can find stunning boutique villas near Jeshonia for 300 plus 1. But the luxury in the gorge villages means the best available suite, guaranteed modern AC, and a strong shower. You might pay 150, 180 for that.
So the key takeaway is what?
You cannot buy your way out of the rustic nature of the South Coast.
But the financial win, the huge value proposition, is absolutely the food. The quality to price ratio for dining, especially the home-cooked traditional food, is easily the best in Europe.
It's an unmatched combination of freshness and volume for the price. You can get a massive Greek salad or horitiki served with a slab of proper feta for only 7 to 9 euros, and it easily feeds 2 people as an appetizer.
Oh, easily. They're huge.
A filling main course, whether it's a rich, bubbly moussaka or a slow-cooked lamb cleftico wrapped in parchment paper, will run you just 10 to 14 euro. These are huge portions designed for mountain appetites.
And crucially, the beverages. After a brutal 16-kilometer descent, the first beer is necessary.
A half-liter of decent local house wine, 5 euros. A large cold draft alpha beer, 4 euros.
That's amazing.
This means you can genuinely eat like a mountain king, a full 2-course meal with wine or beer for about 25 euros per person. That makes the daily cost of living incredibly low once you're settled in a village.
We claimed earlier the trip is 40% cheaper than the Alps. We need to back that up with a concrete example for our listeners to visualize the difference.
Let's do a quick comparison. A hypothetical 3-day, 2-night sustained hike in the Dolomites or the Swiss Alps. An alpine hut, what they call demi-pension with dinner and breakfast, starts at 70–90 euros per person per night.
Per person.
Right. Lunch, a sandwich and a small beer at a hut, is 20–25. Lift tickets or permits could be another 30–50 euro per day. You're easily looking at 150 to 180 a day.
Okay, so now compare that to Crete.
Southern Crete. A rooms-to-let twin room is 50, so 25 euros per person. A lavish taverna meal with wine is 25 euro. Lunch is a gyro for 4 euros and a beer for 4 euros. Add in maybe 15 euro for a ferry leg. Your total daily estimate is around 73 euro per person.
Less than half.
It is a stark difference. That fully supports the claim. But now for the catch.
The kicker.
The logistics cost is the kicker that inflates the budget, because movement is expensive and non-negotiable.
Right, the actual hiking fees are negligible.
Yeah, Samaria is 5, Imbros is 2.50. That's nothing. The major ongoing cost is the ferry system.
Anandek Ferry.
The Anandek Ferry is your absolute lifeline. It runs the essential route along the south coast. A single necessary leg, say from Agia Rumeli to Korasvakian, costs 13 to 15 euros per person.
That's quite a lot for a ferry ride.
It is, because they essentially hold a monopoly on marine transport in this area, and they have to maintain a complex infrastructure. If you are village hopping over several days, that adds up quickly to 30–50 euro a day just for travel.
Then you have the essential land transport, the KTL bus system.
This is a robust, well-designed public system for hikers. A trip from Chadnia down to the gorge entrance will run roughly 8 euro per person. It is reliable and, crucially, optimized for hiker logistics.
But if you twist an ankle, or if that espresso took 25 minutes and you miss the connection...
You pay the taxi penalty.
And that's expensive.
Extremely expensive. They have to drive you over massive mountain passes and then come back empty. A taxi from Sugia back up to Omelos, just to recover a car, can cost you 60 to 80 euros.
Ouch.
That wipes out several days of budget savings immediately and is a penalty for poor time management.
So based on all this, let's talk about cash. You mentioned the ATMs are a problem.
This is a crucial point. The South Coast villages are remote, and their ATMs are a constant source of stress. They frequently run out of cash, or the connectivity just fails.
So what's the rule?
Carry a minimum of 200 euros in cash per person at all times, and keep it in small notes. The small tavernas will look annoyed if you try to pay a 28 meal with a 200 note. Assume everything south of the mountains is cash preferred.
We've established the geography and the cost. Let's talk about the logistical shuffle. You can have the perfect budget and the best map, but if you fall into one of these deceptive planning traps, the trip will turn into a nightmare of exhaustion and expense.
These are the mistakes experienced European hikers make because the logistical reality of Crete is, well, it's fundamentally unique.
Okay, what's trap number 1?
The rental car anchor. This remains the single biggest blunder people make. They rent a car for the full week, driven by a desire for flexibility. They drive to a major gorge entrance, like the plateau at Omelos, park it, and hike the full 16 kilometers downhill to the sea at Agia Rumeli.
And the inevitable consequence. The car becomes a physical, immovable anchor. How does the journey back typically kill the day?
The journey back requires a complex triple-stage transfer that takes hours. First, a 1-hour ferry ride from Agia Rumeli to a hub town like Soggia.
Okay.
Second, a 1.5-hour KTL bus ride from Sugya that snakes back up over the mountains, across the winding roads, all the way back to Omelos where their car is waiting.
And you're exhausted by this point.
Exhausted. If they started hiking at 7 a.m., they won't reach their car until 8:00 p.m., still facing a final stressful drive to their hotel. That single piece of metal has robbed them of a full day of recovery.
So the actual solution here is to rely completely on public transit. That sounds counterintuitive to many travelers.
It is, but the fix is simple. Don't use a car for the big gorges. Utilize the KTL bus system, which is optimized for this one-way traffic.
So let's talk about that synchronization, because you said it was a perfectly executed transfer. How does the KTL system ensure success where private transport fails?
The secret is that the KTL schedule is not just posted. It is intrinsically linked to the Anandike ferry schedule. The bus drivers in Choros Phakion, Sugye, and Paleokora know exactly when the ferries are supposed to dock.
So they wait for you.
Unlike the standard Greek time reality check we discussed, these buses operate with almost Swiss precision in this specific context. They are designed to drop hikers at the top entrance, and then later that day, park at the docks, engine running, specifically waiting for the ferry to arrive with the exhausted hikers.
That's amazing.
This allows for seamless one-way hikes that dump you in a different town, allowing you to move your base camp without backtracking. The system is designed to liberate you from your car.
Okay, trap number 2, the water weight trap.
This is a classic miscalculation in hot environments that leads either to heat exhaustion or an unnecessarily tired back. People miscalculate their water needs for a 6-hour hike in 35-degree heat.
So they bring too little or too much.
Exactly. Some carry too little, risking heat issues. Others carry 4 to 5 liters, which significantly stresses the back and knees during a major descent. An extra kilogram of water makes a huge difference on a 16-kilometer descent.
The fix requires specific research tailored to the hike. You have to know your gorge before you step out of the door.
For Samaria, the system is forgiving. It has fresh, potable spring water fountains located reliably every 2 to 3 kilometers.
Oh, that's great.
You only need to carry a refillable 1.5-liter bottle and trust the refill points. The water quality is generally excellent.
However, if you choose the wilder, more challenging routes,
Gorges like Eridina, or parts of the challenging coastal path, have 0 water sources. None.
0.
Not a drop. You must carry a minimum of 3 liters per person, plus potentially a lightweight electrolyte solution, especially during the shoulder seasons. You have to tailor your load to the specific hike. Failure to do so is a medical risk.
All right, trap number 3, ferry timing assumptions.
The most stressful part of the logistical shuffle is assuming flexibility where none exists. People assume the ferry will wait for the hikers.
It will not. It is a ship, leaving at the advertised time.
If the schedule says 17.3, it leaves at 17.3. Missing that last boat means you are stuck in a remote, often expensive captive audience town like Argyromelli,
Right, with the bad pizza.
facing an unexpected and uncomfortable overnight stay or that highly expensive taxi penalty we discussed.
The fix, again, is conservative planning.
Always hike towards your pre-booked accommodation or plan to arrive at the finish line a minimum of 2 hours before the published ferry departure time. Use that buffer for rest, hydration, and grabbing food.
Let's nail down the necessary technical preparations now. If we're relying on technology for logistics and navigation, what about connectivity?
Signal is garbage. Once you drop into the deep cuts of Eridina or Samaria, you will lose GPS and data connection immediately. The sheer depth of the canyon walls acts as a signal blocker.
The tech fixes are non-negotiable then.
You must download offline maps. Maps.me or Google Offline are essential. Secondly, bring a high-capacity power bank. Your phone will rapidly drain its battery, searching constantly for a non-existent signal.
And the footwear. You mentioned seeing people in road running shoes.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
The local term for the stone is Polje limestone, polished slick by millions of feet and countless goats. It is glass slick.
Glass slick, wow.
The descent is not a dirt path. It's loose scree on top of this slick bedrock. You cannot wear soft-soled shoes.
So what's the fix?
You need proper trail runners. Not heavy mountaineering boots, which are too hot, but they must have deep, aggressive lugs and reputable sticky soles like Vibram or Continental Rubber. This stability is non-negotiable.
And finally, for anyone who is worried about the sheer volume of descent, especially older travelers or those with knee issues,
Use 2 walking poles. This is critical for managing the massive 1,200-meter descent. They save your knees, distribute the load, and provide essential stabilization on the loose scree.
this is the section where the high adventure tag proves itself. These gorges are spectacular, but they are not tame. We need to detail the three primary, often deadly, risks that can turn a vacation dangerous very quickly, and crucially, how to mitigate them with depth.
The risks are almost entirely environmental and terrain-based. You are fighting the elements and the geology.
Okay, what's number one?
Heat stroke. This is the #1 killer. As we said, gorge walls radiate heat, creating an oven effect. If the shade temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, it can spike to 45 degrees Celsius in those sun traps without warning.
Number two.
Rockfall. The cliffs are actively unstable. The geology here isn't just scenic, it's actively trying to kill you. You are walking in an active, unstable geological environment.
And number three.
Ankles. The terrain itself is the enemy. It is the loose scree, the small, shifting gravel over the slick bedrock that causes twists and sprains far more than sheer steepness.
Let's start with heat. Constant water consumption is obvious, but what about salt intake? People underestimate the amount of sodium they lose when sweating profusely for 5 hours straight.
Water alone won't save you. You need electrolytes. The specific fix is to bring high-quality electrolyte tablets or gels and use them preemptively, not reactively.
Or just eat salty food.
Exactly. You can also rely on the local diet. Cretan cuisine is naturally salty. Eat salty cheese for breakfast and carry cured olives or small packets of nuts.
What are the specific warning signs of heat stroke that people should be looking for in themselves or their partner?
The early signs are often ignored. Look for a sudden cessation of sweating, which indicates the body's cooling mechanism is failing.
Okay.
Sudden disorientation, an intense headache, or uncontrollable muscle cramps, especially in the abdomen or calves, require immediate action. Find shade, pour water over your head and neck, and slow your pace drastically. Do not push through it.
What about rockfall? When we hear that Samaria was closed due to a significant rockfall event, it sounds terrifying. What do we look for on the trail?
You need to learn the signs. The trail is actively managed, and you must obey the signage that warns of active rockfall zones. These are often marked by simple, ominous red arrows or X's painted on the wall.
So you just have to move faster through those sections.
Yes. When you are in a high-risk zone, a very narrow section with sheer cliffs above, listen for the sound of loose rock moving and move quickly and deliberately.
We need to tailor the advice, especially for families.
For families with young children, avoid Samaria if the children are under 10. The length and difficulty are just too much.
And so what's the alternative?
Choose Imbros Gorge. It is only 8 kilometers, takes a manageable 2 to 3 hours, is mostly shaded due to thick tree cover, and has much safer, easier footing. It provides a canyon experience without the monumental physical risk.
And for solo travelers, the risk isn't from people, but from isolation itself.
Isolation is the hazard. If you're doing one of the wilder, less traveled gorges like Eridina, the chance of another hiker coming along within the hour is low. The mitigation strategy is simple but critical. Inform your hotel or guest house exactly where you are going, your planned route, and when you expect to return.
They're your safety net.
They are your first line of alert.
Let's address the small irritations, starting with the classic urban scam that drains your budget, the fish price scam.
Oh, laughing. Yes, in urban centers like Tirana, the menu lists the price per kilogram, say 60 kilograms. You order a beautiful fresh fish, and when the bill arrives, it's €120 because the fish weighed 2 kilos and you failed to confirm the price beforehand.
So what's the rule?
The rule is simple and polite. Always ask to weigh the fish and confirm the final price before they take it to be cooked.
What about the aggressive hospitality in the villages? Is that genuine? The free Rocky.
It is overwhelmingly genuine. They will almost always bring you Rocky, the local strong spirit, and perhaps a piece of cake after dinner. This is complimentary. The rare red flag is when they try to charge you for the unrequested treat. But in the South Coast villages, trust the hospitality. It's part of the culture.
And finally, the comfort annoyance that requires a necessary cultural note about waste. Toilets and paper.
Ah, yes. The plumbing system is the fundamental weak link in the infrastructure chain.
Right.
In the gorges, the toilets are rustic, sometimes squat toilets. But the critical instruction in all village accommodation and most tavernas is that you cannot flush paper. It must go in the bin provided. The pipes simply cannot handle it.
So always bring your own paper.
Bring your own paper and hand sanitizer, absolutely.
We've covered the technical details. Now let's talk about the emotional value. Was all the logistical stress, the heat mitigation, and the effort truly worth the payoff? I'll start with the disappointment to ensure we manage expectations realistically.
The failures are as instructive as the successes. Let's hear the worst part so people know what to actively avoid.
My major disappointment was the reality of the Samaria queue. We made a planning error and arrived late around 9:00 a.m., thinking we'd miss the initial rush.
Ah, big mistake.
Instead, we got stuck immediately behind a huge tour group, maybe 50 people, all moving at the pace of the slowest walker. The hiking pace was destroyed. The majesty of walking through that gorge was ruined by the constant chatter and the feeling of being on a slow-moving conveyor belt.
That underscores the first rule.
Yeah.
You must start Samaria early, ideally right when the park opens. My disappointment involved the post-hike experience in Agia Rumeli.
The captive audience town.
Precisely. Agia Rumeli is where everyone converges to wait for the ferry. I was starving, exhausted, and dehydrated. I paid €12 for a terrible frozen pizza at a restaurant near the port that tasted like cardboard.
Oh, no.
They knew they had a captive audience, and they offered low quality at high prices.
The lesson learned from both disappointments is universally applicable to any tourist hotspot. Always walk 2 streets back from the ferry port or the main tourist strip.
Always.
Find where the locals are having coffee or dinner. That's where the quality, the price, and the genuine atmosphere remain. But the payoff for the sustained effort is astronomical. My single best moment was the Samaria Gorge payoff. That gorge is far more difficult than Samaria.
It's brutal. It's not just a walk. It's scrambling over massive boulders, requiring intense focus, balance, and often the use of your hands.
Yes, but the spiritual reward is immense. You hike for hours down this dry, rocky chasm using the metal ladders drilled into the rock, passing directly under that famous 138-meter-high bridge.
Which is terrifying in itself.
It is. Then suddenly the gorge widens and you pop out onto Marmor Beach. It's a tiny, secluded marble cove, just one solitary taverna nestled on the rocks. We were covered head to toe in white dust. We sat down, drank an icy, instantly cooling alpha beer, and jumped immediately into the turquoise Libyan Sea.
That's the moment.
That transition from brutal, dry, spiritual rock to soft, icy cold water is the unique struggle and reward of Crete. It is unforgettable.
And my best moment was pure logistical competence, which, as you know, brings me deep satisfaction.
Of course it was.
We were taking the ferry from Lutro to Korosvakion. The sun was setting, turning the White Mountains a beautiful dusty pink. I was stressed about the connection to the final bus north. The ferry docked at precisely 18.25.
Precise.
And the KTL bus was parked immediately at the dock, engine running, waiting specifically for the ferry passengers. The driver waited patiently for every single passenger to get their bag, loaded them up seamlessly, and we departed immediately. It was a perfectly executed, flawless transfer in the middle of nowhere.
You nearly cried tears of joy over a smooth bus connection, which, as we noted earlier, perfectly encapsulates the emotional stakes of the logistical shuffle. When it works, it feels like winning a marathon.
I appreciate competence, especially when the alternative is paying €80 for a taxi.
So, if you want the high-adventure experience without the crowd congestion of Samaria, what are the best alternatives?
Okay, alternative 1. Agia Gorge. This is the Samaria Light experience. It runs parallel to Samaria, but is significantly shorter, about 7.5 kilometers.
And less crowded.
It has only about 10% of the crowds. It's mostly shaded, smells fantastic of pine and herbs, and ends near the quiet town of Sugia. The logistics are simpler.
Okay, what about option 2?
Alternative 2. The Coastal Path, the E4 Trail. If you want to skip the intense gorge descent entirely, you can hike a narrow cliff path between villages like Lutro and Sweetwater Beach.
This trail comes with a serious warning, though.
A huge warning, high vertigo risk. This is not a relaxing path. You are often walking a very narrow trail high on the cliff edge. It is exposed, and if you're afraid of heights, this will be terrifying and dangerous.
But the payoff is worth it.
The payoff is Sweetwater Beach, which is utterly unique. It is named for the freshwater springs that literally bubble up through the pebbles on the beach, keeping the seawater near the shore shockingly ice cold, even in September.
If we were to recommend an ideal itinerary that focuses on immersion and avoids the car entirely, what would the South Coast hop look like?
I would say use the ferry system to move your base camp. Day 1, take the ferry to Lutro, use it as a base for the Samaria Gorge loop hike. Day 2, rest in Lutro, or take the ferry to Agia Rumeli, hike up Samaria a short distance and back down. Day 3, ferry to Sugia, hike the easier Agia Gorge. Day 4, take the KTL bus back north to Chicania.
That strategy keeps you car-free, highly immersed, and minimizes the risk of the car anchor trap. We've reached the final moment of truth. Let's summarize the value proposition across different traveler profiles. Is the struggle, the logistical shuffle, and the heat truly worth the effort for you specifically?
Let's run through the matrix. First, the scrap of the backpacker.
What's the verdict?
100% yes. It is incredibly cheap if you rely solely on public transport. The bus system is highly effective and the food value is unbeatable. This is a rite of passage for budget hikers.
Okay, next. The smart traveler, the mid-range couple.
Yes, but plan carefully. You must book multiple nights on the south coast. If you try to drive daily back and forth from Chiquinia, the exhaustion and logistical stress will absolutely cause conflict. Base yourself south.
The family with kids?
This is conditional. If you have robust, active teenagers, this will be a challenging, memorable experience they will never forget. But if you have toddlers, the answer is a firm no. Do not drag a 5-year-old down Samaria. Stick to Samaria Gorge.
And finally, the luxury traveler. We originally said no.
I'm going to say conditional yes. Now, we need nuance. You cannot pay to skip the sweat or the rough terrain. However, you can buy luxury experiences surrounding the hike.
How so?
Stay in a 400 boutique villa in Chiquinia and use private drivers for transfers. Charter a small yacht to take you between villages. If you redefine luxury as comfort and convenience around the effort, it's possible but expensive.
For the dedicated hiker, putting all the pieces together, the costs, the scenery, the logistics, what is the overall final verdict?
For hikers seeking a raw, high-adventure experience, this is a global top 10 destination. It is an unbeatable combination of easy, reliable logistics, as long as you follow the plan's stunning vertical scenery and a price point that makes it sustainable.
What's the optimal time to go, avoiding the crowds and the worst heat?
The best timing is late May, when the mountains are still green and the flowers are blooming. Or late September, when the intense heat has broken, but the sea is still beautifully warm. Avoid August at all costs.
And if you had to pick one base town for a deep dive week?
Sogia. It is quiet, has excellent food, and its location places it centrally in the ferry lines, making the logistical shuffle slightly easier and providing flexibility.
Done. We've given you the blueprint. Pack your specific trail runners, leave the casual shoes at home, carry your 200 euros in small notes, and know your ferry schedule. The adventure is waiting.
Before we wrap up, let's reiterate the key takeaway. Preparation is paramount. This adventure is not given, it is earned.
Right.
You must pack the right technical footwear and leave the smooth-soled road running shoes at home. The reality of the trek is dust, slippery stones, and physical commitment. But the reward is immense.
So what does this all mean? If you approach southern Crete with the necessary respect for its intense environment and its local culture, you are rewarded with an unmatched European hiking experience.
And if you find the logistical complexity of Crete too stressful, or perhaps the heat too intense, this raises an important question. Where else can you find this high-adventure rock experience with fewer people?
Okay, what's the final thought?
Consider our final provocative thought for your next planning session. Vikos Gorge in northern Greece, in the Epirus region. It is technically deeper than Samaria in parts, boasts incredibly dramatic canyon scenery, and is almost entirely empty of tourists compared to the congestion in Crete. That region offers the challenge without the queue.
But surely that experience lacks the Mediterranean payoff. The sea.
It fundamentally does. While Vikos offers stunning depth and solitude, you don't trade mountain dust for an icy alpha beer and an immediate jump into the turquoise Libyan Sea.
Oh, there it is.
That unique alpine to ocean transition, the feeling of climbing out of the raw earth directly into the saltwater, that's the specific struggle and reward that makes Crete's logistically complicated payoff entirely unique in Europe. That ultimately is why you embrace the shuffle.